Thanks everyone for coming out to the temple and also joining us on Zoom. Maybe we could start with the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. I'll share the screen. And if you're not familiar, you're welcome to just listen. This is just a basic kind of foundational aspiration of connecting with the sense of refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. It's for our kind of, spiritual direction in our path, and making the compassionate aspiration to use that refuge to travel to awaken our full potential, Buddhahood, so that we can be of great benefit and service to sentient beings. If you like, you can imagine or have a sense of the Buddha's presence in the space before you. Like, you can also expand to include the Buddhas and bodhisattvas surrounded by awakened beings, and holding in our heart all sentient beings, all of our difficulties and aspirations. Sangye chodam soki chodam chanju badu dagi kyapsu chi dagi chani bezonam ki Drova penjir sangye druva shor Sangye chodam soki chodam Janju badu dagni gyatsu che Dagi chanyengi bezonam ki Drova penjir sangye druva shor Sangye chodam soki chodam Janju badu dagi gyatsu chi Dagi chanyengi bezonam ki Drova penjir sangye druva shor. I take refuge until enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Maybe we can just sit in quiet meditation for a minute or so, just to settle and arrive into our class today. We start to tune into the breath, allowing thoughts of this morning or anticipation for the rest of the day to fall away. Just give ourselves the space, permission to just sit, enjoy the breath. Okay, go ahead and get started. So today's the third and last session of this little program, I guess you call it. And we've been kind of discussing or using deity practice, or the deities, as a basis for our conversation, to kind of look at some of the qualities of specific deities that are common in our daily practice, to see what they're trying to communicate and help bring out in our daily experience. The program was centered on Chenrezig, Buddha of Compassion, which was our first session a couple weeks ago, Manjushri last week, and Tara this week, specifically green Tara. And so all the Buddhas are. I remember I was doing a study in one of my classes, a paper, one of my Buddhist classes at Naropa. I was interviewing Ringu Toku Rinpoche about Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava has 8 manifestations, and they're very different kind of appearances and qualities, and I was just so interested, and he kept coming back. He's like, and I was like, what about this one? He's like, it's Buddha. What about this one? It's Buddha. And I think it's trying to communicate that even though there are all these varieties of expressions and manifestations of Buddha or enlightened energy, they are all Buddha. They all are complete. But they do all have different kind of expressions and the way they look and their mantras and practices and different things. And very particular qualities that they are there to express. Because the enlightened mind itself is formless. It's not what they call the Dharmakaya, is just formless awakened mind. And the only, they say the only beings that can communicate with Dharmakaya are other Buddhas. So it's like a Dharmakaya, mind-to-mind kind of Buddha mind expression, because it is formless. It doesn't have characteristics, color. It's just awakened consciousness, you could say, maybe. But it's too subtle. It's too subtle for the rest of us who aren't Buddhists to kind of communicate with or connect with. And a Buddha mind, awakened mind, doesn't proselytize. It's not trying to impart some sort of doctrine or something. It's a spontaneous, when it does manifest or communicate to beings, it's a spontaneous expression back to that being. So when we have these Buddhas that are in these particular forms, the forms themselves are not from the Buddha side. It's like it's an expression to communicate to beings who need the communication, who need to develop and kind of make the journey on the path. If that makes any sense. I hope that's not too far out. So it's a particular message that's reflecting back to us, almost like a mirror of what we need. And and the 3 meditational deities we've been talking about, they're Buddhas. They're also depicted as bodhisattvas, and their qualities or their practice is particularly engaged. Like Chenrezig practice has a very kind of it's a very like in the world practice, whereas like some of the higher tantric practice, like highest tantric yoga practices, one of my teachers was saying they're more oriented to just wisdom, just trying to manifest the kind of subtle consciousness, and it's very wisdom oriented. Whereas the lower tantra classes of action tantra, or you have the peaceful deities like Tara, Chenrezig, and medicine Buddha, bodhisattva, and so forth. There's more of a compassionate activity kind of support going on. And yeah, so maybe we'll just get into Tara now. Make sure I have time. Actually, so the first session we talked about Chenrezig and then Chenrezig's quality, particular kind of quality, is to help awaken our capacity for compassionate presence. The energy of Chenrezig is the white color of Chenrezig, kind of the wisdom of spaciousness, like the spacious wisdom, and the compassion element. So there's a kind of compassion that's kind of spacious in nature that can hold all of our suffering, hold our suffering in its presence. And then Manjushri, last week, is red-yellow in color, and Manjushri is about enriching and clarifying and clearing the veils of our mind and perception. So Manjushri practice has this ability to kind of help kind of clear our mind and start to help kind of and clear our kind of analytical mind as well. But Manjushri's energy is very rich, and so like the orange color kind of brings this richness, so that the intellect isn't just like a detached intellectual kind of just in my head kind of thing. The richness of Manjushri also allows it to be more integrated in us, like so like it's more grounded and earthy. There's like a balance of that, so that when we do this practice, when it helps kind of clear out or enrich our system that way, when we go back to do studies and analyze and try to understand these kind of really subtle and difficult and complicated wisdom teachings, it's like our nervous system is more attuned or supported to be able to catch it, get it. Like it's almost it's starting to kind of wake up our inner qualities. And today going to speak about green Tara. Tara, we can see, so Chenrezig is the expression of compassion, Manjushri is the expression of wisdom. Tara is kind of holds this expression of what we can call maybe power, or the capacity to be effective. When we talk about power in the Buddhist tradition, power for self is just neurotic. It's useless, actually. The power from the Buddhist point of view is affecting change, affecting transformation, impacting our inner and outer environments to be of so that compassionate activity and spiritual path can unfold for beings. So it's how making an impact. And so in the Mahayana tradition, the kind of bodhisattva path is that it's like we're not totally removing ourselves from the world and engaging. And Tara is the small statue. Actually, that's my white Tara. Oh, you've been able to hear me? Actually, I'm noticing the mic is much louder. It's been okay. Just went up a level. Actually, okay, yeah, so I'll just go into a little bit of Tara's symbolism and hopefully we can start a conversation. So green Tara is seen with her right leg is out, extended out beyond the kind of main cushion lotus, and her left leg is extended in, tucked in. And her right hand is out. There's a gesture of her right hand kind of resting out on her knee, and a kind of her hand open, and then her left hand is at her heart. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, so her right hand right foot is stepping out. So there's this kind of willingness to respond. It's a kind of a symbol of like responsiveness. And one of the things with Tara practice is to help work through our hesitation. So when we're feeling like stagnant or overwhelmed, kind of burnt out, maybe like compassion fatigue, or doubt, just feeling like I don't know how to kind of get myself together, I don't know how to organize my life. Tara has this energetic quality of helping kind of move that and starting to kind of create that kind of organization and trust. Yeah, so there's this kind of stepping out, but we know that like just doing stuff isn't necessarily wise. Just like being busy, this kind of stepping out, just doing stuff or trying to be a helper or something like that doesn't necessarily mean it's helpful. Or there can be just a kind of like an overactive kind of thing with the stepping out, which I'm sure we all feel, too busy, too engaged, too overwhelmed. So it's interesting, her left foot is actually tucked back in to kind of show that she's contained in herself. And there's this kind of balance of being kind of grounded and kind of in oneself. And yet her right foot's out, so not totally kind of self-absorbed, like totally in oneself. Right foot's out, ready to respond. But the left foot is actually tucked in, showing that she's, kind of contained. And so that's interesting, kind of, we talk about like Buddhist activism or how we live in the world as Buddhists or meditators or people doing contemplative practice. Contemplative practice is like an inner, contained exploration, training to come into oneself, clarify oneself, connect with oneself, and so forth. But then we have this external world, we have meeting other people, relationships, and demands, and so forth. So trying to find that kind of balance. Yeah, I thought maybe that's maybe one point I could stop and maybe just open up to comments that ring true for people, or any questions or comments.
I'll make a comment. So, thinking about the way that we're imaging Greek Tara, and you talk about her. I'm just thinking of a yoga pose. It just reminds me of a yoga pose, which in a way, how we posture our, I call them prayer pose, the bodies, right? How that sort of influences our thinking and our mind in case, like we need to maybe step out of our comfort zone at some point, something that's going on in our lives, right? And for me, it's like the symbolism of the posture, whether I assume that posture myself, but to me, in that way, it's helpful. I like Tibetan Buddhism because I'm all about the ancestral goddesses and the Buddhist head goddesses, and Tara is one of them. I've never had a dream or anything where she kind of came to me. Other ancestral goddesses have. But anyway, that's kind of my experience. Because I want to talk all about these different goddesses from different cultures and different places, and in North America, there's a couple of really powerful ones that are fairly recent. For me, on my path, I love Tara because in a more broader, to society, right? You talk about Tara, and oh yeah, I've heard of Tara, right? So it's a way that, for me to get into the subject of all these other goddesses as well. So anyway, thank you, Tara. And her name sounds similar to Tara in English, and Spanish, which means bird. So I like that part. And she's green like a bird.
Yeah, and actually her name means liberator.
Are you familiar with where's it, near Formosa Springs? There's the big Tara retreat.
Tara Mandala Retreat Center.
Have you been there?
I haven't, but I heard it's really, really beautiful.
I've been there, yeah. And so there's around this circumference of the Gulf, there's each of the 21 Taras and a description of whatever. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Not very far away, really.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really, really gorgeous retreat land. Sotra Melions. She's done a lot of work with the god, like bringing in the divine feminine into practice and so forth. Yeah. Any other?
What's the significance of the green color?
Yeah, great. Okay, yes. The question: what is the significance of the green color? So there's kind of two ways to look at it in this context. One is the element. So the colors are associated with elements, the elemental energies, and green is associated with the air element. White Chenrezig is associated with the space element. So it's interesting when we kind of wake up that spacious quality. Manjushri is associated with the earth, the gold, and the red fire. So like they kind of enriching and equanimity energy of the earth, with the fire, the kind of clarity of the fire that brings that kind of intellectual sharpness. And so, and green is associated with air energy, which we could say it means movement. So Tara's there's a lot of prayer. Prayer is the Tara, the swift one, the swift heroic liberator. And so what it's liberating is like from liberating us from stagnation, doubt. So air kind of has this quality of responsiveness. So it helps kind of awake kind of our responsiveness. And with its wisdom, it's like a responsiveness that knows what to do. Like we kind of overcome our hesitation. Like Manjushri is kind of cutting through like a cognitive or perceptual kind of fogginess, and Tara is kind of cutting through an active hesitation. Like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I go do this retreat, or what should I do with my, all these kind of, should I help this person or not? There's this kind of the air element's kind of unimpeded. Air is fast. It's not blocked.
What about the water element?
Water element is blue color. So medicine Buddha. But and so there's the elemental kind of alignments with him. And also what they call the wisdom energies. So the wisdom energy of green is accomplishing wisdom. So similar to kind of that swiftness. It's wisdom that's accomplishing, say Buddha activity or Dharma activity, something that's aligned with our heart values. It's helping us kind of align with our kind of core heart intentions and so forth. It's accomplishing wisdom. And so and the white is all-encompassing space or accommodating space wisdom. The gold or yellow is the wisdom of equanimity. Red is the wisdom of discriminating awareness, discriminating wisdom, knowing. And then the blue is it's called mirror-like wisdom. And it's interesting that medicine Buddha is a healing Buddha. I think in that the blue kind of symbolizes also a symbol of Dharmakaya, or this kind of this deep oceanic non-duality. Like all of our sickness comes from this suffering and samsara with our duality, and good and bad, and positive, negative karma, and all the causes and conditions and stuff. And the blue of medicine Buddha is this kind of healing that's beyond all that. It's like a fundamental healing at the source, fundamental healing. Lama Zopa Rinpoche has a book called Ultimate Healing on medicine Buddha practice. And all these wisdom energies, they also have the kind of associated neurotic kind of thing going on. So if that kind of, because it's all in us, it's like the refined energy turns into this wisdom. But the kind of neurotics, the all-encompassing space in neurosis is like spaced out, detached, aloof. And so Chenrezig is here, like, oh no, you can be spacious, but you also have a heart, and you can be compassionate and embodied. And with the kind of neurotic, like air element, or neurotic side of that energy is can be doubt. And then doubt leads to kind of envy when we see people who don't have doubt and are kind of rocking and rolling and successful and they got everything together, and, and it's like, oh, I want that. Why can't I have that? Oh, poor me. And there can be this when we feel kind of disempowered and debilitated in ourselves, disempowered in ourselves. That disempowerment kind of turns sees power on the outside, and then that starts to create jealousy and envy. This is the neurosis of the kind of green energy is green with envy, actually, which is very interesting, correlated with our cultural understanding of it too. And so when that's awakened, it turns into empowerment and accomplishing, the ability to be organized and understanding what we're doing and our kind of purpose, and like our intentions and actions are aligned and all that. And we're also able to, in terms of single others, we're responding with not just doing something just for the sake of doing it, or doing it from a place of anxiety or controlling or whatever. It's coming from a place of like intuitive wisdom, or like Tara knows. Like we can see like Tara is engaged, but we don't have a sense that she's gonna lay a trip on us or something like that. Like Tara like knows. I mean, our sense of Tara is that there's a wisdom there, that she knows what we need, and that's kind of what the air element. It's like a responding to that need. Aaron, you had a question?
What does it represent when they have clothes or not, or like when they have like priestly garments?
Everything is symbolized, like in this tradition. It's just depending on how far you want to go, how detailed. Like there can be. Thanks, James. Thank you. Everything can kind of be symbolized into meaning that kind of reflects maybe in the long run teachings, sutra teachings. So different robes, different things can have a different meaning. I don't actually know if there's a specific kind of meaning for Tara's clothes. Also, from another point of view, from like meditating on the deities, it's also supposed to kind of generate joy and upliftedness in the mind. Like their ornaments and their kind of the robe, they're beautiful wavy robes, and they're supposed to kind of create kind of a joyfulness in the mind. So in a less kind of specific way. But if you read a commentary on a specific deity practice, there's usually very detailed, every jewel and different thing kind of will represent something. Certain deities, like there will be a deity that's many heads. It would be like that represents the 9 stages of karma body, or 16 arms represents 12 arms represents the 12 links of dependent origination. 16 legs, 16 emptiness. There's different kind of ways of looking at it to help kind of direct our mind to the path. So it's like a symbolic way of reflecting on the path as well. And then also when we see the deities with the crown with 5 jewels, the crown is the 5 wisdoms. So it's showing, representing that they've transformed those 5 kind of neurotic energies into wisdom energy. And so they all have the five colors to show that they're also complete. They're not just one aspect, they're complete in the way can be. So I wanted to get to the hands of Tara, because it's also interesting. So her right hand is this gesture of what's called granting sublime realizations, and her right hand is her palms out, resting over her knee. And it has, like, if you actually do the kind of posture, you kind of feel this, it's kind of very open, generous expression. Yeah, it's almost like you can kind of tune into what the energy, what that posture is actually trying to offer. So it's this kind of open, giving, very generous attitude. And so, her right foot's out, she's ready to engage. Her left foot is in, she's contained. Her right hand is out, a gesture of like a generosity of spirit. And then, again, that can kind of go in a neurotic, in a different way. If like we're giving too much, like people are just extending too much, we're giving ourselves, or constantly over generous, kind of getting burnt out, I guess, depleted. And so Tara's left hand is at her heart, with her, I think it's her ring finger. Yeah, I think so. I can't tell. I think it's her ring finger. At her heart, and this is the gesture of refuge, inner refuge. So again, she's like giving, extending out, but she also has this kind of inner refuge. So it's like she's centered in the three jewels. So again, this beautiful kind of balance of out in the world, but also that kind of generosity, that giving, that engagement is coming from a source of inner refuge. And so Tara practice is also helping us with that. Because again, like this, when we feel disempowered in our life, refuge, it's like coming back in, it's like kind of finding that source of a genuine refuge, like connecting with our heart values. That's really our heart values. And we're connected to our heart values, but how do we actually make that come out to our lives? So sometimes Tara practice, we talk about purifying obstacles, inner and outer obstacles. So we have the inner obstacles of just not being sorted, like this emotional kind of disturbance, confusion, sense of self is, disconnected from our heart values. And then there's also the outer obstacles where maybe we do feel like aligned with what we want to do and how we want to live and how we want to engage. But the external world is not complying. We're not, like there's some sort of, blocks. And Tara is also, a lot of the prayers and praises are around fear, like overcoming fear. She liberates from fear. So we do these practices to, Tara's practice to help with working to bridge the two worlds. And again, it's not like, when I'm talking like this, it sounds very dualistic, like I'm just like, Tara, just do it, kind of, like just an external deity. Well, practicing Tara is awakening, it's transforming our wind energy. Like we all have the elements of energy, the fire, earth, water, and space, and so forth. We all have that kind of energetic makeup. So it's helping to transform and purify and open our wind energy so it functions clearly. And it's stimulating and activating the same abilities. So like when we do Tara practice, we're kind of bringing in or kind of awakening those qualities in us. So it's not like a dualistic thing where it's like a truly existent external deity. It's interesting, two of my Western teachers said that, because Westerns tend to, we're a very psychologically oriented culture, so we psychologizing certain things make sense to us. And they're like, the deities aren't, we're imagining them, but they're not our imagination. Like, we're not just making them up, but they're also not externally, they're not like inherently separate from us or externally. It's more like a living force or kind of a living, how do they say, like it's the community, it's symbolic in how it functions. The deities are symbolic. They communicate with symbol, but it's like an archetypal force, or like a very living kind of manifestation or emanation, I guess, something you could say, of that light energy. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah, hearing.
What does it represent when there's a lot of bodhisattvas in the audiences in the sutras?
Yes. Yeah, the question was, what does it represent when there are many bodhisattvas in the audience of the sutras? One thing is that it kind of keys you to that it's a Mahayana sutra. Great answer.
Isn't it historical?
Also, that it's historical. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I know.
Yeah, I guess as a historical account, like the Buddhist teachings aren't. It's kind of a beautiful thing. Like the sutras, the teachings are events. They're not like there's a setting. It was an event that took place. It was something that happened. Because again, the Buddha wasn't a preacher. The Buddha just communicated in a spontaneous way based on the kind of context and conditions of what was happening in the moment and what the beings needed here at the time. So it was kind of an event. The sutras are like tallies of events. Yeah. So maybe they were there. They're in the sutra because they were there. It's a good. Yeah, but somebody might have you can ask. Let me ask that question again. There might be a better answer from somebody else. Oh yeah, one other thing, Tara, she's called Mother Tara, and Mother in the Tibetan tradition is associated with emptiness. And sometimes emptiness is spoken of as like a womb, like the womb of emptiness. Robert Thurman really loves this saying in Sanskrit. Emptiness is the womb of compassion. Yeah. Emptiness is where everything is born out of, including ourselves. Like right now, we are appearing from within the womb, the space, the motherly space of emptiness. And when we talk about the Buddhist tradition, we're trying to awaken up to emptiness, to be liberated. Like emptiness is kind of the ultimate safety, sense of safety, ultimate sense of safety, and source, and kind of coming home. Prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom in deity form, is also a female deity, also containing that kind of motherly aspect of a womb-like aspect of emptiness. And I find that kind of a powerful connotation, because emptiness is scary in one way, but nothing to fear. The reality that there's nothing to fear. Like we're just in a kind of a dream. Tara is trying to communicate. Yeah, there's a saying from Naropa University's founder. We hear it a lot at Naropa. He said that the bad news is that we're in free fall, and the good news is that there's no ground. Yeah. So Tara is very healing in that way, from a place of emptiness, recognizing her as a mother. Like she's this all-encompassing emptiness that embraces us in our totality, because that's actually who we are. So, and that all-encompassing emptiness is the ground or space for Tara's compassion. So when we're kind of doing Tara practice, and we're connecting with Tara's compassion and dynamic energy and this kind of expression, it's from this motherly place of this kind of all-encompassing emptiness, this space of emptiness. It's kind of fundamental to who we are. And and then in terms of kind of practice, we start with Tara outside of us as a kind of reverential or kind of devotional relationship. And then those who take initiation into any of the deity practices, we kind of dissolve into that sense of source and emptiness. And then when we arise as Tara in our form, we're trying to tune into that energetic expression so that it starts to kind of imbibe in us. Like Manjushri would say, our wisdom vibration, like we start to have a wisdom vibration of Tara. Tara, the mantra and the green wind, awaken energy, dynamic, the gestures, even though we're not necessarily doing physical gestures, although I guess we can, that are kind of communicating or kind of bringing out that wisdom energy or vibration in us. So maybe any last questions?
I have a question. And I hope it has something to do with what we're talking about. But when we see a Buddha statue with the head completely wrapped around and tied up and all that, what does that mean? What does that symbolize?
Nothing really. So the question was when we see Buddha statues with their faces covered, kind of wrapped in like cotton sometimes or like a cloth.
Or I've seen the heads completely cut off. 100 statues with no heads.
That might be different things. So
and this is not particularly in our tradition, but but I have seen the wrapped heads.
Yeah, the wrapping is just to protect the paint. The wrapping is just to protect the paint on the face because it's very delicate, like gold leaf and paint. So usually, like I've seen with Tibetan statues, when their faces are wrapped up, it's just they're usually in transit. Like you wouldn't have it wrapped up on an altar, but if it's not,
I have seen that.
huh?
I mean, it was actually in Yeshua's house.
Then yeah, maybe it was just kind of not open. I don't know. It doesn't really have any practice significance that I know of.
How about the no heads? Does anybody?
That could be terrorism. No. Huh. Yeah. I haven't seen. I mean, because I know the Buddha statues have obviously been like demolished and so forth, but I don't know. Is there anybody come across that? Maybe a different tradition.
Just the head, the whole body was intact and not really broken. In the ball of a top hotel, you got your phone. In a cave. And it was a good feeling place, it wasn't a bad feeling thing.
Yeah. If it's in a Tibetan tradition.
To find out,
I mean, it could just been damage. I haven't heard of anything headless Buddhas.
It was 100 of them.
I've seen like the dancing skeletons. Sometimes they have like the skeleton heads, but it's depicted in art. That way, I don't know if that's significant. Yeah, Aaron?
Some traditions like Tendai and Shingon do wrap their statues or put them in certain cupboards, and they only bring them out after certain years or show the face after certain years. I know some of the forms of the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, like the Batu head. It's like a sometimes translated as horse head. It's a wrathful form of Avalokitesvara. Like I know that's a very popular one, like in Tendai temples, but they won't bring it out very often, and they will wrap the face.
Yeah, some of the wrathful in the Tibetan tradition.
That's totally interesting. I learned something today. It's Danny. I learned something. Thank you.
Yes, in the Tibetan tradition, some of the wrathful statues or deities they'll have hidden. They'll keep like behind the curtain, or because they're intense and like freak people out, or give a wrong, or just kind of it's a very intense energy, and so some of the like protector deities or wrathful deities they'll have it kind of enclosed like that too, and then they'll just open for if they're doing a particular puja or ceremony for that deity, then they'll have it open. Otherwise covered.
I just checked on the internet. They said in Cambodia and stuff, a lot of those headless statues are just that terrorism. People take heads off and sell them. The hundreds and hundreds of headless statues all over the place.
Yeah, I was at a retreat center in Colorado a few months ago, and there was a Buddha, like a concrete Buddha statue out on the trail. There's like a long trail to the stupa, And there's just a concrete Buddha in the kind of woods there, and somebody took the head off, but then they brought it back because they got remorse.
These were terracotta statues, so we couldn't have been so, and it didn't have a terrorist feeling at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's been that in Nepal yet. How are people feeling? I thought we could finish with doing a Tara practice. Do we need a couple? Want to take a breather for about maybe 3 to 5 minute break? And taking a few deep breaths. And those in the room, if we come back and just into meditation, we'll come back to the visualization. Just relaxing and settling on the breath, letting go of thoughts. Thinking about the past or the future. Relaxing into the body, feeling of your seat. And within the space of awareness, in the space before you, at the level of the forehead, arises an 8-petaled white lotus in the nature of light. On top of the lotus, a white moon disk lying flat. Lotus representing the wish to be free from samsara. And the moon disk representing the bodhicitta aspiration. And on top of the lotus and moon disk, in an instant appears Mother Aryatara. Her body is green in color. She's seated with her left leg held in close. And her right leg stepping down to a secondary lotus. Symbolizing she's ready to step into the world for the benefit of sentient beings. Her right hand is placed on her right knee, and the gesture of bestowing sublime realizations. The palm out. And she holds the stem of a blue lotus flower, which blooms to the right side of her head. Her left hand is held at her heart, in the gesture of refuge. Between her fingers holds the stem of another blue lotus flower which blooms at the left side of her head. Tara is dressed in robes of silk and adorned with ornaments of gold and precious jewels. Her hair is tied in a top knot goes across her shoulders, which is adorned with flowers and strings of pearls. And she's smiling with open, interested eyes like a loving parent for her child. Surrounded by an aura of green light. The details are hard to visualize or imagine. That's okay. Just the main sense is to have a feeling, a felt sense of the presence of Tara in the space before you. And to you, noble Tara, is the divine wisdom mother, the essence of my own innate Buddha potential, several from that of all the Buddhas. It is the embodiment of intuitive wisdom and active compassion, ready to manifest in the world in an instant for the benefit of sentient beings. You're the source of blessing and inspiration, wisdom and compassion, of healing and transformation. As our constant protector, to you we go for refuge. Noble Tara, Mother of all the Buddhas, we request you to bestow your blessings to purify and heal negativity, sickness, harmful interferences, life hindrances and obstacles, and emotional afflictions, and to bestow the qualities of compassion and loving kindness, openness, and acceptance, so that we may awaken for the benefit of all sentient beings. And for a moment, we can contemplate any particular request or particular thing that's alive for us that we feel we need support or help of clearing or empowering in us. Based on this request from Tara's heart, this flow out this radiant green nectar and light. And the nectar light flows down through us from our crown, flowing through our whole bodies, permeating every cell in our body, creating a loving movement of energy of Torah. This kindness and acceptance energy of Torah. It's healing and clearing, enriching qualities we need. And as the green nectar continues to flow from Tara's heart, we begin to hear the sound of the mantra. And as we chant the mantra together, we continue to have awareness of the healing light nectar continuing to flow. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Just rest in quiet awareness, whatever film quality remains from mantra. And then become aware again of Dharma and the space in front of you. Dharma comes to rest above the crown of your head, facing the same direction as you. And she melts into light, dissolves down into you. When your body, and blessing your body, speech, and mind. We can rest and feel the oneness in nature of Tara's body, speech, and mind, and our body, speech, and mind. So we're the same in emptiness. And then we can recite the dedication together. It's on the screen. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become venerable Tara and lead all living beings without exception to that state. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying a little late today. Thanks. Have a good Sunday.